Good morning, everybody, and welcome to our weekly live question and answer series where we sit with functional medicine integrative physician. Sometimes we have guests and we look for your questions and we ask them to hopefully bring you some valuable information. And speaking of information, that's exactly what this is supposed to be. General information. Hopefully this is valuable to you that are listening and watching along here. This is not supposed to replace the relationship that you have with your physician for specific medical advice. So please ask away your questions and we will answer them as general as possible to sort of steer you in the right direction. Really any and all questions about health are fair game. We specialize here in a very holistic, comprehensive approach to our patients, looking at diet, lifestyle, nutrition, and our doctors here practice integrative medicine, which really means that they're integrating both allopathic and more preventative medicine measures to really give to you and offer to you the best of both worlds. Dr. Althorp, you're joining us today. Thank you so much for your time and for your information. And to the audience out there, if you have questions, you can post those off to the side here. Should be on the right-hand side of your screen. There's a chat section. You do have to be logged into YouTube to do that, but we are monitoring that. And I'll ask those questions to the doctor as I see them come in. If for some reason you're not able to post in the chat area, you can always leave a comment under the video. We go back and look at those for the next week's Q&A, or you can email your questions in to office@tlcdoctors.com. That's office@tlcdoctors.com. And I did get a question emailed in through there, so can we go ahead and start with that?
Sure.
Okay. So first question comes to us from Natasha, and she says, Dr. Althorp, what do you believe about homeopathy? My friend recommended it for my baby. What does she, I'm assuming you, recommend for baby or young children when they begin to become ill with common illnesses? So kind of two for there. One is homeopathy. What is it? How do you feel about it? Do you support it? And two, for a young baby or young children, what do you recommend?
Well, the history of homeopathy is many hundreds and hundreds of years old. Homeopathy is the concept that like cures like, meaning a very, very minuscule parts per billion of something will have an impact on the health of the body, much like, in a sense, vaccination. Mm-hmm. Do you see what I'm saying? And so this is not something that is not known. It's probably not known to most physicians, because I had to do a second doctorate in integrative medicine to learn about it and get the books on it and the history on it. Now, I believe homeopathy has its place, all right? I am not going to put myself out as an expert in homeopathy. I studied it, I went through it, and I have found that I've done well without having to have all the little tinctures and stuff of homeopathy. So I made the decision many years ago. I went through that doctorate in 1999 or something like that. And I let it go because I'm doing well without it. So if you're now going to ask me, should this be used with your children or baby infants, I'm going to take the position, I don't see the need for it, okay? Nor am I familiar enough with it to talk about the efficacy in a infant or childhood population. I was dealing with adults. So I'm going to take a backed away opinion on this. I'm not saying no. I'm just saying regarding infants and very young children, I didn't study it, so I'm not going to suggest that you do it.
And I would say for young children and infants and someone who is very educated in homeopathy, that would be Dr. Kaur, who went through naturopath school, and they focused a lot on homeopathy. Right. Dr. Kaur is probably more comfortable seeing very young children and making recommendations there.
Right, so let's get Dr. Kaur in here. So Natasha, stay tuned, and we'll ask Dr. Kaur. Let's give her that question, sure. The email, and maybe she can do a blog on that or a short little video clip on that.
Is there anything that you would say, maybe with or without homeopathy, that you would recommend for baby or young children when they become ill with common illnesses, maybe a little cold, a little flu?
Well, our immune system is wildly wonderful, fantastic. Our immune system is designed to begin to identify foreign objects, pathogens, viruses, bacteria, fungi, and develop a memory system for that, so further exposures allow us to handle it over time. The initial response of a child to the expression of a common virus, common pathogens, is typically a fever, and I would say a fever is excellent. I would not treat fevers unless the child is listless, not having eye contact, not taking their fluids. These are all signs of concern to the healthcare provider, and you should bring your child in to be seen. But if your child has 100.5 to 102.5, and they're looking at you, they're drinking their water, they're connected, you can tell they're alert, then I would say hold off on giving them any Tylenol to try and lower it, because that's what our body was designed to do.
Okay.
And observe. Now, if they have a prolonged fever, 2 days or more, then I think you should probably have that evaluated. And of course, if they're always pulling at their ear or not swallowing because of throat pain, they should be screened for strep by your pediatrician or general doctor.
Right.
But the child is designed in a very healthy way. Make sure you're feeding your child a very healthy diet. The typical American standard American diet is so full of sugars and gummies and goldfish crackers and apple juice and orange juice, that those are immune suppressive, colored dyes, high sugary, starchy items that depress the immune system. The child should be eating healthy food and not entertained by food. Food is not entertainment. Food is health and nutrition to sustain life. Better teach it to them now. And I always like to say this while I have the opportunity. If it is Dad's birthday, the dad should have his favorite treat, whether it's a piece of cheesecake or carrot cake or a brownie or whatever the treat that the birthday person is. The whole family should not be having the treat. And it teaches the specialness of the individual, and it offers an opportunity to teach the children that that item is a very high sugary thing. It's not to be eaten frequently. That's why it's Dad's birthday. Dad gets a treat. Dad is special today. Not Mom, not all the brothers and sisters.
Sure.
Otherwise, we're all having, it's my cousin's birthday, it's my mom's birthday, it's my dad's birthday, it's my aunt's birthday, it's my grandpa and grandma's birthday, and it's my friend's birthday, and it's a holiday, and we're always eating all this stuff.
Got it.
I think that's the one of the things harming our children tremendously is all this processed and sugary type drinks that we are giving the children to help their immune system. If you do that, you're going to do far more to help their immune system, which is set to well equip that child to expose in the world. In fact, one of the articles that I reviewed since last week is talking about herd immunity and the immune system and the great importance of not being too super clean. You know, we need to have some dirt exposure as children and pet the pets and be around and live in this world.
We're meant to grow up in a sterile environment.
Correct, and that immune system may not have antibodies. You know, we're all thinking about the coronavirus, SARS, CoV-2, and checking for antibodies. But antibodies don't necessarily stay around for things. But what does stay around is the memory cells, because there's basically two arms to the immune system. Yeah, T cells, right. And when a foreign object comes in, your immune cells try and chew it up and present it to the T cell to examine it, make memory and information, and send it over to the B cells to make antibodies to that, okay? So you have this beautiful related immune system. So the antibodies will be made and you'll get over your cold or maybe have no symptoms at all. And those antibodies will fade often very low or away and not be noted. However, the measles, common measles, is usually we can get antibodies lifelong. Unless you vaccinate yourself, we know that those antibodies drop and drop and drop. So my point I'm trying to emphasize is the wonderful T cell. Not better than the B cell, it's
Right.
just, it's the hidden aspect of our immune system that develops this kind of memory. Just to go into some of the articles, the studies are trying to figure out why some of these people, like the homeless, didn't die off so well, so much, and why there were quite a few prison inmates, and I don't think the diet in a prison is very good either.
Right.
So we're talking about a huge percentage of prison inmates, the huge percentage of the homeless, a huge percentage of, I think it was a Tyson meat plant in one of the articles I was reading, and they all were asymptomatic for SARS-CoV-2. We're talking 98% of those studied in the prison, 96% at the Tyson food plant, and I think 88% in the homeless center. Well, that's a massive exposure to CoV-2.
Right.
And they all had these antibodies, so they were positive, but they had no symptoms. And that's what drove me and the study to look at, well, what is this immune system? Apparently, they're saying those T cells, in the cell-mediated aspect, not the immediate, a reaction of your immune system, but the innate aspect, has seen similar coronaviruses, similar common cold coronaviruses, and maybe that was recognized by the T cells because these people are often in these prisons or the homeless, and I was surprised about the meat plant, but apparently they're exposed and they had a great immune system and memory response. So we have wonderful immune systems, and we should take care of them and study what harms the immune system.
Yeah.
And the American processed, shelf-life, cheap, quick, drive-through restaurant, sugared up, I ordered some Chinese food last weekend, and there was a Chinese food that had chicken, but it had a crust over it and a gooey sweet syrup. I don't know what it was called.
Probably orange chicken or something.
Orange chicken? Right. Okay. And then there was Kung Pao chicken, which didn't have that sugary crust on it. And I could see the children went to the sugared item, and I liked the Kung Pao chicken. So everywhere you go in this food industry, it's sugared up and crusted up with all these starches and stuff. We have to get ourselves free of this from harming our immune system.
Right. It's interesting, since what everybody's talking about right now is COVID, how the story has shifted from initially when this thing started to hit us in America. It was, okay, we need to make sure that the hospital system isn't overwhelmed. There was a lot of talk about masks, social distancing, and now it seems to change to where we should just stay at home, locked inside, not be around anybody, and wait for a vaccine to come through. And that wasn't whatever this was about. There was no belief in the beginning in a pandemic that you can stop it. It was just controlling and slowing the spread with the idea that eventually we would learn how to handle this better in an acute, patient situation, and eventually we would reach some type of a herd immunity. I know Sweden was getting a bad rap for a long time. The whole world was pointing at them saying, what are you doing over there, Sweden? You're not locking down, you're not enforcing social distancing, you're not requiring masks, you're not shutting businesses down. And now Sweden it seems to have come out of this thing pretty darn good for their population.
Mm-hmm.
at least as good as us right now, if not better, and they didn't shut their whole economy down. They didn't shut down their schools.
Yeah. Well, if we can retain an open mind and not have a pre-biased way we're trying to guide the science, we have to look at Sweden and we have to look at their situation and study it, because indeed they certainly didn't do any worse. Okay. Now, just you brought up a vaccine has to be found. Interestingly, I have an article here. Dr. Fauci says chance of coronavirus vaccine being highly effective is not great. Once again, Dr. Fauci says the chance of a coronavirus vaccine being highly effective is not great. And if you go through this article that was published on CBS August 7th, 2020, published Friday, it basically is pointing out that there's maybe, if it's 50% effective, he'll be happy. He wanted it to try and be 75% effective, but he said he'll be happy with 50. But that brings to mind that the flu every year, the vaccine, the average flu vaccine every year is only at best around 47% effective.
I've heard as low as 30%.
Right. So again, I'm not saying don't study the vaccine, don't develop a vaccine, although this would be a novel messenger RNA vaccine that has never been used before.
Right.
So this is even more concerning to me, because there's never been a prototype like this before.
Coronavirus is a family of viruses that are not new to us. We've seen many types of coronaviruses, and there has never been an effective vaccine for a coronavirus yet. And now we're talking about creating one for COVID-19.
Right. Now, going back to what I originally said, in those studies, which one is that? I don't have it here right with me, but I'll get that, and we can put that in the notes for later or bring it up next week. In this study where they were questioning the immune responses and talking about the T cell, another way they looked at it was they looked at people who recovered from COVID-19. They looked at them, and their antibodies were significantly noted, probably in the high 80s or low 90%. But then they looked at serum from people who donated blood between 2015 and 2018. So this is before the pandemic, way before 2015 to 2018. And they looked at these frozen serum samples from 2015 to 2018, and they found a significant proportion of those serum samples also reacted positively to having antibodies to the SARS-CoV-2. Now, how can something from 2015, 2018 have antibody reactivity to SARS-CoV-2?
Well, because it's a similar virus.
Absolutely. So it is pointing out that the genome of the SARS-CoV-2, although a portion of it is unique, and how it became unique is an arguable point. Was it a animal, spontaneous? Was it a genetically manufactured? I won't touch that hot topic. But what we're saying is there's enough about the SARS-CoV-2 that asymptomatic people, which are, maybe as many as half the population, 50%, these are recognizing the component, like you said, of the genetic code of the viruses we've been around. So be healthy, be clean, but don't be an excessive super hygienic person.
Sure.
Then you have all the conversation now to come up about should we therefore continue to wear masks, because if a slight exposure helps you to develop antibodies and you're prepared for this, and that creates this asymptomatic body of people, should we wear masks? Well, we're in a pandemic right now, and the arguments for wearing a mask in the research all up until about May of 2020 have been they're not useful. They don't make a difference. Now we are just starting to see some studies show up that suggest that there may be a value. One of the studies I have here is from July 31st, 2020. The title is "Masks Do More Than Protect Others During COVID-19, Reducing the Inoculum," which is the amount of virus you encounter of SARS-CoV-2 to protect the wearer. This was published in the Journal of General Internal Medicine, and the chief investigator was Dr. Monica Gandhi, Gandhi, medical doctor, MPH, Masters in Public Health, July 31, 2020, Journal of General Internal Medicine. And the down low on this, to summarize this up, is the volume of the inoculum. Let's say in my casual life as a doctor, 40 years, I have been coughed on. I've worked in ERs. I have been walking through the breath of my patients every day, multiple times. So I probably have tons of little inoculums. And this has helped me so that I apparently didn't come down with COVID-19. Now, if someone was hacking and coughing, I would have been more cautious when I'm examining a patient. But in the casual life exposure, probably I had little inoculums throughout all my time as a doctor. They're suggesting that the mask will help reduce the dosing of the inoculum exposure, okay? And there may be some value to that. If you remember the Diamond Princess cruise,
Yes.
And I think they had, again, this is off the top of my head from reading research, maybe 48% of the clients were asymptomatic but positive. But there was another cruise from Argentina to Antarctica, and they required all the people subsequently to wear masks. So the Diamond Princess cruise, nobody had masks on. It was brand new, early. And the subsequent cruise from Argentina to Antarctica, everyone wore a mask, plus the crew had N95 masks. And they found that their asymptomatic but positive was somewhere in the realm of like 88%. So more people where the masks were used were asymptomatic but came up positive. So did the mask cause the inoculum to be reduced and they had better, easier time to develop their antibody response? Well, this is way too early for us to now say, oh, that's the article that proves you should wear a mask. There are just too many other things. What time of the year is it down there in Argentina? Is it their summertime where their vitamin D level's high? Does that population of people who was on that cruise, do they eat more fruits and vegetables? Are they a thinner group, less obese population? You know, all these kind of questions have to be taken in. But it was interesting to see the degree of inoculum certainly does have some kind of a impact.
We're getting some questions in here. Why don't I rapid fire a couple of them off to you?
Yeah.
So first question is topical mineral effective? I researched a bit, and medical industry seems not to recognize a dermal product as effective.
Yeah, for minerals, no. Mineral absorption is very hard. That's why mineral chelates, meaning taking an amino acid and linking it to the metal, it's more expensive, and the company that does this for the entire industry is Albion. So mineral amino acid metal chelates like zinc carnosine, magnesium glycinate, magnesium malate. These are all kind of amino acid structures, help the absorption of minerals orally. Metallic oxides like zinc oxide, these are very poorly absorbed, but they're cheap, and that's why you have all the options, you'll have to take a lot more,
Okay.
but at least it's cheap and you can try and get them.
Okay, good answer. Next question. I'm planning to try keto intermittent fasting, but is it okay to take vitamin C when skipping breakfast? I'm taking about 8 grams.
Absolutely. I see no reason why you couldn't take that. It may have greater impact on your gut to
gut.
loosen your stools,
Right.
but your body will develop a certain degree of bowel tolerance.
yeah.
So I would say go for it. Yeah, that's the right way to do. Remember, your immune system will be healthier the less you eat, the more narrow the time you allow yourself on the clock to eat, and the longer the hours your stomach is empty, the stronger your immune system is. So we Americans need to shred this obesity and overweight status, drop those pounds, learn to fast, and learn to put a treat as a very special thing. Let's have a meal, but I don't need a dessert. You know.
Next question is, some say that taking vitamin C itself is not as effective as taking it with bioflavonoids, and others say bioflavonoids interfere with absorption of vitamin C. And have even heard some say that ascorbic acid is not vitamin C. What's the truth?
The truth is, we don't get enough research money in nutrition to answer those questions, okay? And because it doesn't make money for the pharmaceutical systems. And so you're going to get small little studies, like I'm published, but I'm not massively known for my publications.
Right.
And so someone will make a study and they'll come to a conclusion saying bioflavonoids enhance some aspect of their hypothesis. They might have said, well, the level of the vitamin C in the blood be higher if it's with bioflavonoids. I don't know what the study was. I'm just theorizing as a scientist. So when we see these little studies, they pop up, they'll make an article, they'll take a stand. And I have been in this so many decades that I am going to say it's not settled. It is not settled. I like bioflavonoids, and that's when you eat the whole orange, you'll get the peel where they're all rich in those aspects. Well, I don't think God put it there for no reason. So
Right.
if you're going to eat an orange, eat as much of the fleshy rind as you can. If you remember, Grandpa Zeman always ate the rind with his orange. I couldn't understand that about my dad. But anyway, he could eat anything. Now, the other thing is vitamin C, ascorbic acid is vitamin C, and that's what we give intravenously, and
Right.
I have decades worth of impact and value from it. So I am not going to buy into those opinions. Let me see their articles that say ascorbic acid is not vitamin C.
Right.
Okay, so it's complex.
That's new to me. I've never heard that before. Vitamin C is not ascorbic acid. I
Well-
mean, vitamin C is just a name that we made up for ascorbic acid, is my understanding.
Yes. Now there is an argument to say the largest provider of vitamin C or ascorbic acid in the barrels for industry and vitamin pills is from China. And now China is under the scrutiny for its human rights abuses, the Uyghurs that they have put in prison camps, concentration camps, questionable issues about political prisoners over there and organ harvesting. And if we're looking at China as our source for vitamin C and its quality, I'm going to say I have avoided it. All these years I've tried to avoid buying anything from China
Right.
for the very human right allegations that I feel are probably true. And so maybe their vitamin C is cheap, and maybe it isn't all ascorbic acid in the barrel. Remember,
Okay.
I was a chemist before a doctor, and I understand about sampling lots to get and maybe the top layer of the barrel is vitamin C and the bottom is a lot of junk mixture. So there's a lot of problem out there. I make sure I get our vitamin C from natural sources, not from China, and we usually get it from the beet.
Yes. Okay, I'm going to skip a question from the same person because I think this one's an easy answer and we're just about out of time here. We had a question saying, is Juice Plus sufficient to replace minerals leached from the body by significant water consumption and vigorous exercise?
That has not been studied.
Well, Juice Plus isn't really a mineral supplement.
Right. Yeah. I'm not saying it couldn't be there because it's the whole fruit
Right.
concentrate, and the vegetables and minerals will absorb some minerals, out of the ground. So it's probably in there, but I can't say to you for sure that it has been studied.
It's sufficient enough to counteract drinking a ton of water or doing a lot of vigorous exercise.
Correct.
Well, that's why I see you prescribe Juice Plus, but you also often prescribe with that a mineral.
Right. As a physician here, I'm using nutrition as a therapeutic agent. And I can't make mistakes. And so I will say, look at, I think the antioxidant and the DNA protection and the immune enhancement aspects of Juice Plus is so well documented. It's the most documented nutraceutical in the world. You can't challenge it.
Right.
But on the other hand, I've not seen documentation on the minerals and things like that. Therefore, I'll have a base, well-studied, clinically studied multi-mineral that we use, our TLC Energy Core or our Mitocore Core. With that, usually I give vitamin D and iodine tablets. That's my 4 that I really, really use significantly for the barest, highest quality, the cheapest amount of money.
And I know if I could only take one supplement, it would be Juice Plus, just because you're talking the whole fruit, and speaking of things like bioflavonoids, there are nutrients in those whole fruits we don't even have names for.
Correct.
Or know how they work synergistically to
Right.
improve the absorption of everything in there.
Right. I like the example. I think we've identified ballpark about 10,000 biochemical components of an apple. We know those things,
Right.
okay? But that's probably only 1% of all the biochemistry in one apple. And so that's why I like whole food concentrates like Juice Plus.
Right. Great. Well, I think that's it for our time today. I think we just about got to every question. We missed one about actions against the government, hydroxychloroquine. We'll come back to that next week. We'll start off with that question, and I believe I had another question on the chat from the week before about chelation therapy, so we won't miss those when we follow up next week.
Yeah, we really need to know if we're going to go to a longer format, because I'm always bringing research articles, and I'm missing. If you look to my left here, there's another pile from last week, and I would like to cover these. I would.
Well, I think what we're absolutely going to do, and we're going to do soon, is add in an additional video a week, but this won't necessarily be a live one. This will give you the time to talk about current events, current news, important information that you want to share with the public and your patients. And we'll keep this, and we'll try to make this more just about questions and answers. The best way you can stay up to date with that is, number one, subscribe to our YouTube channel. Go ahead and go down there and click that subscribe button and hit the bell on it. That'll notify you anytime we put out new videos. We have some coming from some of our other providers as well too that want to speak on a particular subject. So I think you'll find that really valuable. And if you do enjoy this information, be sure to like it as well too. That gives us feedback, and we can go back and look and see what's connecting with you out there. But yeah, I'm excited to get some more information out there with you, and maybe do something off time.
So if I did like a little 1-minute review of this article,
Yes.
and then end the video but put it up, and then 1-minute review of that. Excellent. I'd like that.
Okay.
Okay.
Great. Well, hey, thanks for joining us. We'll be back next week, as always, at Wednesday, 9:45 a.m. Pacific, looking for your questions. I'll ask them to the doctor. Perhaps we'll have a guest with us next week. But I want to thank you for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you next week at 9:45 a.m. Pacific. Thank you.